Welcome to the Billy Ho Forecast Show. Please subscribe and like the video. Remember, the more you share, the bigger we grow. Now, let's go! Hello, Billy Ho here, coming at you for the 2022 PGA Championship, going to be held at Southern Hills Country Club in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We already know there's going to be wild and willy wind, and it's going to be probably firm and fast. And I am here with the DFS chef, Dave Demerit, and we are going to talk some players. Hey, Dave, how are you today, my brother?
I'm doing good, Billy. How's it going today, man?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's been a busy time of the year for me. I do a lot of landscape work on the side, so I've been really busy since Derby and all that, everybody getting things together. But how about yourself? You keeping busy?
Oh, yeah. Always staying busy, got to stay on top of the golf and keep up to minute by minute, especially like you said with this week. I mean, we got a wide range of weather. I'm seeing temperatures in the 90s on Thursday, and then we dipping down and possible chances of thunderstorms on Friday. So we got a little array of stuff coming this week.
I did, and you'll see on your ticker going by, people, I'm going to update the weather in this video. But last I checked, it looked like the rain chances were increasing on Saturday, and they almost were like they're moving backwards, like they might even cut into Friday. I haven't even checked today, but by the time we get there, we may be looking at some storms Friday, and definitely wind in the mid 20s, gusts in the 30s. And this course is kind of built for this. It's probably a little higher than normal, but let's get into some golfers. I want to talk some golfers, and I want to know, David, first off, on the 10K and up range, and you don't have to just give me one, you could give me a couple of guys. And I'm going to share the screen all the way up here. All right. So this is Dave's stat model, and I'm going to be putting a scroll across to tell you how you can get said stat model for just $10 for the rest of the season. Pretty good bargain, I'd say. $10 investment. You got 15 events. So kick us off, Dave. Who do you like up top?
Yeah, definitely. And you'll see that on the stat model, you have a couple guys that are shaded in different colors there. And those golfers are golfers that went to school and played in the Big 12, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Texas, so on and so forth. So obviously you're going to see Scotty Scheffler up there. Really good history at PGA Championships, but also a UT guy. The course went through a major renovation in 2018. Right. But I'm sure a lot of these guys from Texas have played this course since the reno. I know Scheffler for a fact played the I think the Big 12 championship in 2015, which obviously was before the PGA Championship, but he won the individual collegiate championship that year on this course, and I know UT also won the team event that year. So obviously Scheffler is going to have a huge amount of ownership coming in this week, and for all rights, he's number one in the world right now. He's doing exceptional. We're looking at obviously approach play this week, and from what I'm reading, especially if the greens are going to be firm and fast, we got small greens. It's going to cause a lot of roll off the greens, so the around the green game is going to come into play. And right now, Scheffler over his last 24 rounds is the best golfer around the green over the last 24 rounds. I will have exposure to him, but everyone that has followed me knows that I use Rick's core cascading method. And I'm actually going to go to a guy in the 10K range that is making my way, or he's making his way into my core cascade this week. And that's Rory Mcilroy. Rory, we know, can hit the ball a ton. His approach play is also very good. I think that, JT's, at least what I'm seeing is JT's coming in the highest projected ownership in the 10K plus range, which makes a lot of sense.
Most definitely. Yeah.
but I'm liking Rory this week. He's obviously a big game hunter. He's second over his last 24 rounds in strokes gained around the green this week. So I feel pretty good with going to Rory. I think he's definitely someone that is going to make the cut. He obviously has the ability to win. For those people that haven't really been paying attention this week, everyone is making the comparison to Augusta and the Masters for this course, which makes sense because the architect Perry Maxwell actually, I think, helped in the construction of the Masters or of Augusta. So it makes a lot of sense as to why the comparison stands this week for the Masters. And I believe Rory came in second at the Masters this year. So I'm going with Rory.
Sounds good, man. And we differ, which doesn't mean a damn thing when it comes to these guys because they're all elite. You could throw all their names in a hat and probably pull one out and be right. Scotty, obviously, but I would pivot to John Rahm off of Scotty if the ownership dictates it. I'm not sure it will yet. But Rahm, other than a little bit of squirrely around the green and putting problems early on in the season, has been nothing less than elite ball striking wise. And this course just screams John Rahm as far as he hits it, his compact swing. He can keep the ball in the fairway. He's not only long off the tee, but he is more like your good drives and accuracy, like fairways gained. And he's always really good with his irons. So I would probably go Rahm up top. But the guy I think I'm going to target, and he seems to be the least owned of the 5-digit players, is Colin Morichawa. And the reasons are obviously the ball striking. He's long enough off the tee. He's more accurate than most all these guys. And around the green, he's shaky, but technically what I wanted to bring up was the way they rolled these greens flat, and there's not giant there is fescue rough, believe it. If you're off the tee, if you spray it off the tee, you could be in some real trouble. But around the green, it's shaved fairway. It's not thick, tough grass like you see at a lot of tournaments where players got buried lies and they need to chunk the ball out. It's flat fairway. So it's going to be guys that can put some spin on the ball and stop it dead as close as possible to the green and make 5 to 10 foot putts to save pars. So I think Colin Morikawa can do that. He's best on bent grass. And he's the first guy I would target, and him and Rahm. And of course, you can't go wrong. JT's going to be too highly owned, I think. And Rory, believe it or not, I do like Rory, but for some reason, I remember him putting a hell of a lot of spin on the ball when he hits iron shots. And if he doesn't dial that back, he's going to be spinning the ball 50 yards off the green if he ain't careful. But he may be able to know that already. He's a professional golfer. Those guys can dial off the spin. So I'm not too worried. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think all these guys over the 10K range, you can obviously make a, great story for, and go into each and every one of these guys over the 10K range. I mean, these guys are all elite. Rahm and Morikawa are the two lowest guys that I'm seeing currently projected for ownership. So it's those are, I think, are great pivot plays. If you want to try and get off the, at least ownership projections of JT, who is projecting out the highest as of right now.
Right.
And then Scheffler is the second highest projected as of right now from what I'm seeing. So, I mean, Morikawa is coming in the lowest, and then Rahm, at least as of the moment. These guys could obviously pick up a lot of steam because they're projected lower. So you could see them creeping up, but any one of these guys above 10K makes a compelling story to roster any one of these guys.
Right. All right. Well, let's take a look at this 9K range, because I find it pretty. The 9K and the 8K, these 8K range is most interesting to me, but I'm going to pick a couple of guys in the 9K range, and it's kind of a shame. I'm going to go 3. It's kind of a shame on 2 of them that they played so damn good last Sunday, and they were both double stacked in my showdown lineup, and that's Xander and Decky. Xander Schauffele and Hideki Matsuyama both shot a combined 21 under Sunday and were just absolutely tearing it up. And believe it or not, I barely cracked the top 100 with those two guys. And they scored a 92 and 86, I think, between those two showdown scores. Ridiculous bullshit. But I digress. And the other guy was DJ. Now I'm going to start. Of course, Decky's been striping it. He obviously over the neck issue, and he ball striking's elite. But one thing I did want to point out, he's past the neck issue. He prefers bent grass firm. And I'll go by all the way back to the BMW in 2020. And that's another reason why I kind of like Rahm and DJ, because those two went to the playoff. Par 70 at Olympia Fields, firm, fast, bent grass greens, and played a very difficult par 70. Decky was third. He missed the playoff by, I think, maybe a stroke. And I always actually said it a summer ago, at least, or more, that actually Decky is better when it comes to these tougher, harder scoring tracks, because he doesn't have to make 9,000 birdies, but he's been putting it so well this year. He obviously can go 23 under like he did last week. And DJ, I thought, was full on practice mode last week. I watched him play. He hit a shot on number one on Sunday over the green and then chipped it, and the ball rolled right back to the same spot. And I was like, okay, that's real great, DJ. Then he just chipped it in and made his par and went to the next hole and just had this little wry smile on his face. I think he's built for this course too. And I probably took one or two guys you might be looking at, Dave, but how about if you can pick out some guys in the 9K range, shoot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, the 9K range is stacked. You know, like any one of these guys you could possibly put into a lineup. I mean, DJ, from what I'm seeing as of the moment, is the lowest projected ownership in the 9K range, except for Brooks. Those are the two lowest projected right now, are DJ and Brooks.
Yeah.
But I mean, we know Brooks is, you know, a guy that comes out and he's a major guy. He's a major killer. You know, he wants to really step up his game in majors. But, you know, for me, as of right now, I mean, Spieth is obviously gaining a bunch of, you know, talk in the industry, and for good reason. Again, Texas guy. I think he's only, you know, like 260 miles away from this course.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he's played this course. I'm sure he's probably played it even after the renovation was done. And he's just, you know, look at what he's done the last 2 weeks. I do like DJ because of that low ownership projection. I did hear, you know, a little note that guys that haven't played within like the last week or two traditionally don't do well at a PGA Championship, which that would kind of hold true for Cantlay, who's getting, you know, a bunch of chatter in the industry, and yeah, obviously it makes sense. He's Cantlay's a guy that doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I mean, if we're talking what we're talking and the industry's talking, we could be looking at a PGA Championship where it's going to be single digits under par, or it could even play like a US Open where we might even see the winner, you know, at like even or even over par this week if it's going to be that crazy. So, I mean, when we talk Cantlay, Cantlay doesn't make that many mistakes. You don't see Cantlay coming up with like double or triple bogeys a lot of times. You know, he might bogey, but it's rare that you see him make like double or triple bogey. So it makes perfect sense for Cantlay. I'm with you on Hideki. I mean, Hideki just steps it up, especially in majors. It took him a while, you know, to finally like get to that next level. It was always, can he finish? And we've seen that now. You know, he's put on the green jacket. He came back, has a 14th at the Masters this year. Looked really good last week. So I'm definitely with you on Hideki. And I mean, I'll probably garner ownership on several guys in this 9K range. It's just going to be, you know, are you playing cash? Are you playing GPP? If you're playing GPP, do you want to try and go contrarian to get different up in this range, or do you want to eat the chalk in this range and go contrarian down low?
Right. Very true. The the Cantlay, I guess Cam Smith might fit in that same not has not played in a few weeks bucket. I feel like he played RBC was the last event.
Yep, RBC Heritage the last time we saw Cam Smith.
Yeah, I think that was maybe 3 weeks ago, but not too bad. All right, that sounds good. The only thing that just real quick on Brooks is he hasn't shown to be much of the. I mean, that stretch run he had when he won the back-to-back in 18 and 19, he was killing it in majors, but he hasn't been too hot in the majors. I'd say probably in a year and a half or so, but I still don't think he's 100% healthy, to be honest with you. But let's see what we got in the 8K range. And I think I'll let you go ahead first because I believe you're going to be talking about an Irishman here in just a second. And I want to hear about him because I like him too.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows in the Discord here which I mean, any of you that are interested can obviously join Billy's Discord completely free of charge. And our boy Big Daddy Gator needed some help last week, and he reached out to a few of us and asked us to put together a lineup for him. And it seems like we got a 6 of 6 through for him last week. So
that crushed over the weekend too. It didn't. I mean, it didn't end up scoring a lot of points, but I mean, the Xander making the cut on the number and Kazire too.
Exactly. Kazire kind of faded over the weekend, but you know, he made the cut, which was the most important thing. Most important is always getting a 6 of 6 usually through. We will probably see a higher percentage of 6 of 6 this week. I mean, even though the field's 156 deep, I mean, legitimately, we can probably chuck out 30 to 40 of these guys. So when you really look at it, the field's probably like kind of like an invitational. Consider it like 120. And then this week, it is top 70 and ties make the cut, not top 65. It's top 70. Top Good 70
point.
and ties
I had not.
Make the cut this week. So we're going to see a higher 6 of 6 percentage this week.
But I ain't heard anybody. I have not heard anybody mention that. Good call.
Yeah, top 70 and ties this week make the cut. So you're going to see higher 6 of 6s. And I am liking my boy Shane Lowry. Again, if we're talking wind, weather, I mean, that speaks Euro golfers a lot more than it does the US golfers. I mean, in Texas, you definitely do get these gusts of winds coming. So that's why you can look at some of these like guys that, are in the Big 12 conference or kind of grow up and live in Texas because they're kind of used to this a lot too. But I think it's definitely going to favor some of these Euro guys this week. And if we're talking scoring and the industry's talking, the scoring is going to be real tough. We want guys that are going to be really good in bogey avoidance, really good in scrambling, sand safe percentage, because there are bunkers surrounding almost every one of these greens, and they're deep bunkers from what I was reading. And if you look at the stat model and you scroll down, who is number one in this field in bogey avoidance? It's Shane Lowry. And then scrambling and sand save percentage, he is second in the field in both of those categories. So everything's kind of speaking Shane Lowry to me. I think he is one of those guys that, when we talk wind, and obviously I think a lot of these Euro players kind of fit this mold. When you want to combat the wind, you want guys with lower apex height that can kind of zip it through the wind, which also, Gary Woodland with that stinger could be sneaky this week. And he's a University of Kansas boy, so you want guys that can keep it low in apex height. The contradiction to that is when we're coming into the greens this week. The greens are small. The greens are going to be fast and firm. We've read that it's going to roll off. So for your initial shot, you want to try and have a low apex height. But when we're coming into the greens, a higher apex height is what's going to, cause that ball to usually land soft and not roll.
Right.
So it's like a full bag of mixed tricks this week. We want guys that can hit a low apex shot, but then when we come into the green, we want a guy that can hit a combination of a low apex off the tee, but then come in with a higher apex so he can land it soft on the green and not give that rollout.
Very true. All right. So Shane Lowry and
if I'm going with another guy, there's two other guys in the 8K range that I'm really looking at besides Lowry, and that's probably going to be Neiman and Zalatoris. But I think that's kind of where the industry's looking this week. And then,
I can agree with that.
yeah, and then obviously I'm forgetting the 8K flat range. I mean,
Yeah, those two guys. Yeah, these two
exactly.
guys right here.
Yeah, both of those guys at the 8K flat range are definitely going to garner some ownership. I mean, when we talk ball strikers, Corey Connors is one of the best ball strikers on tour. And then when we talk a major, Louis Oosthuizen always steps up in majors. So I'll definitely have ownership on both those guys as well.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Corey Connors, I think can fit okay. And that goes back to, he's a little shaky around the green, but I don't think it's going to be super easy, but it's going to be easier to get the club on the ball from a fairway lie to try to throw it up there and spin stop it and then make a putt. And Louis, he's the same way. He had the I believe like a third place finish in the 2021 US Open, which was a similar comp type course. But I'm going to highlight a guy that's going to surprise you a little bit. This dude right here, Tiger Woods. I don't feel like, and I'm going to pop over here real quick and see what his ownership is. Sub 5. We know what his MO is this year. He's playing the majors. He's just healthy enough to walk. We saw him walk 4 days at Augusta and grind that out. And if you can walk Augusta, you can walk any course in the United States. And so he did the same plan for that, spent the last 2 months mapping out every single shot he needs to make at Augusta to play well, played well. The only reason I didn't really like him there was because there's a little bit too much more scoring as far as DraftKings with the 4 par 5s, home in 2, and the easier par 3s. So you're gonna get a hell of a lot more birdies. This course ain't seeing 20 birdies by anybody unless they just go out of their mind. We're talking 12 to 15 max birdies. And Tiger Woods can get down on a course like that. And where has he been? Oh, I don't know, the last 2 months probably. Camped out at this golf course, walking it, hanging out with the greens guys, hanging out with the president, the club pros, mapping every single shot he needs to make. So I figure he's probably got a pretty solid game plan. And 8,200 is not the worst price in the world. It's high enough to keep people off of him. And you'll probably have, that's Fantasy Nationals, 3.4%. So you're probably going to see more like 7 or 8% maybe, just because he did play well at the Masters and he looked pretty good. I mean, he was just roping it off the tee down the fairway every time. The irons look pretty good. We know he's a wizard around the green. He's a guy that can skip stop it from a fairway lie around the green. And he's probably plotted every spot he wants to land the ball on the green. So that's why. But him and Corey Connors, Louis, and I love Shane Lowry. I mentioned him in my first video this week. He came in like second in my model over like the last 12 months or 50 rounds. And he's all around, just like you said. And so we'll move it on into the 7K range. And we can start up top because there's a couple of guys right here at the top that you almost could have included in the 8K range. So tell me who you like. I'll give you a 1v1 real quick just to break tradition. Matty Fitz versus Tony Finau.
For me, it's not even a second guess. I'm going Matty Fitz over Finau. Finau's beginning to look like he's coming out of the funk that he was in for a while. But again, I mean, if I'm talking tough course that we're going to be requiring around the green, bogey avoidance, scrambling, to me, it screams Matty Fitz over Tony Finau this week. I mean, if I'm looking at it over the last 24 rounds, Finau is definitely better off the tee. He's even a shade better on approach. But when we talk around the green and putting, it's not even close. Matty Fitz is gaining just under like a half a stroke per round around the green, where Finau's I'd call him net neutral. He's a little bit negative, and he's also basically net neutral with the putter. I know Finau is better on bent, but to me, I'm going Matty Fitz for sure over Tony Finau, which is crazy because I'm looking at at least early ownership projections, and they're only within a couple a couple percentage points away from one another. Matty Fitz is garnering higher.
That's not enough to sway anybody, I don't think.
No, I mean Matty Fitz is garnering higher, but I'm surprised that Finau is currently projecting as high as he is.
Well, this real quick, and I'll let you pick out somebody else between this debate. This surprised me. This is the last 16 rounds, which is 4 events over the last 2 months. The 5 to 10 feet and the 10 to 15 feet, pretty solid. So he's finding the putter, and obviously Bent's pretty good. Tee to green, and Fitz is right there with him. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these two guys. But let's see who else you got. Give me one more guy down here.
I think there was someone that had tweeted it out last week. I think it was Chad Eckert who tweeted out last week that he had put a bet in on Fleetwood last week, and I tweeted back to him. I was like, you can just burn that ticket right now.
Yes, I saw that. Light that bitch on fire.
I mean, he was getting good odds at 50 to 1, but I'm not betting on a guy that's never won on U.S. soil.
Yeah, there's a difference between he's good value and is he going to win the tournament?
Exactly. And I mean, last week he was 9K on DK, and now we come into a major where we have softer pricing. And the weird thing is at least last week his odds were exactly the same, 50 to 1 to win last week and 50 to 1 this week. But
that's nuts.
He's only $7,600 this week, and I'll definitely have some Tommy Fleetwood exposure at 7,600, which is crazy to me because Cam Young is going to be a superstar eventually, but to me, he is just drastically overpriced this week at $7,600 to be in a major. I can rattle off 15 guys that I'd rather play this week than Cam Young at lesser price. And
I agree with that.
And to me, the one guy who I think is dramatically underpriced, and I know several guys have mentioned it in the industry, Billy Horschel. I'm taking your name, baby.
You just
Billy
jacked me. I was getting ready to say
Billy Ho. Billy Ho is taking Billy Ho this week.
Preach on it.
He's screaming to me, and I know, like I said, several other guys are talking him up as well. I mean,
look at that tournament history.
Exactly. He's
already cut.
I mean, I already mentioned that in the Core Cascade as of right now. I'm looking at Rory, but this is the second guy that just immediately, actually, I shouldn't say second. He's probably the first guy when I was going over pricing. He's the first guy that really made my Core Cascade this week. I looked at him and I was like, no, man, too cheap. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's made 17 straight cuts on tour. So
yeah, and not only in majors. Well, he's missed some cuts in others, but the PGA Championship specifically, it goes back to 2013 before you find a missed cut.
Yeah. Well, I'm just talking in general. I think over the
in general, he's a cut maker. That's what I thought too.
Yeah. So from the end of the 2021 season going into the 2022 season, I think he's 17 for 17 in cuts made. I do like a couple other guys in this lower 7K range this week, like Kokrak, I think is someone that can do well, especially, in majors. If we're looking at, the Masters of the comp course, 14th at the Masters. So I'm definitely going to have some Kokrak. Henley, I think Kenny Kim, I think, has him in his cash game cornerstones this week.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll probably have a little exposure to Henley, but to me, Henley is beginning to trend in the wrong direction.
I agree.
I'm not quite sure about Henley. A guy that I'm not hearing any chatter about, and a guy who does really well on small greens is Mav Mcneely. Mav Mcneely has always, if you look at courses with small greens, like Pebble, he's crushed Pebble. He does really well there. There's a few others that have small greens. If I want, I think RBC Heritage. I mean, he was 26. I mean, I'll take that from a guy who's 7,100 this week. The other guy that's really sticking out to me is shaded in orange at 7K flat, Oklahoma State boy. Again, I mentioned the Big 12, but he is getting talked up in the industry this week. Alex Noren is another guy that's made my core cascade this week.
Man, we are flying in tandem. I can tell you that, because that you just mentioned all the two guys, Noren and Billy Ho especially. The other guy's Keegan at 7,500.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to have some. He's just been playing too well, and he honestly should have won the Wells Fargo. He gained over 10 strokes putting, and that's outrageous for Keegan. And you think to yourself, shit, he ain't going to do that again. But I went back and looked, and he's had 5 or 6, 10, 8 to 12, like big spike putting weeks. And the following tournament, he usually, he's obviously not going to repeat the performance, but he doesn't dip to the bottom. He doesn't swing the other direction, like lose 5 strokes. He only gains 3, or he's 0.2. So as long as he continues to ball strike as good as he does, and he's efficient enough around the green, and he's a bent grass guy, and he's great off the tee. He's really good in accuracy and good drives, and he's plenty long enough. Kokrak was the other guy, and really just to polish it off, down here, I am going to look at a couple of guys in the 6K range, but I'm not going to dip myself. I don't think it's necessary to dip. You got him in orange. I'm a little tempted by Ricky Fowler, more on Yahoo because he's $20. Oh, Tiger Woods is $20 on Yahoo as well. That's just, I feel like I'm going to have a lot of that. Chris Kirk popped in everywhere but putting. So just, I guess cross your fingers and pray he can make a 5 to 10 foot putt to save some pars. And, of course, Mito, but I don't think he's experienced enough. And there was one more guy. He just got in, Russell Knox. Wind, of course, he's another guy that you got to, cross your fingers on the putting, but good in the wind, and ball striking like crazy. And that's another. I didn't know he was orange too, is Kramer Hickok. But give me a couple guys down low, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, Kirk was popping in a few areas, but I probably won't be on Chris Kirk this week. Again, it's always trust your gut. And even though some guys might pop up in areas, you just got to go with it. And Kirk's one of those guys for me this week. He's popping up in a few areas, but I just don't see it for Kirk this week.
Really good around the green, though. That surprised me.
Yeah, he is there, but I see guys that are better. And like I mentioned Cameron Young earlier at 7,600. For me, I'd rather go to Mito. At least you're saving yourself $900. At 6,700 for Mito than you are with Cam Young. And I honestly think that Mito is, right there. Cameron Young might have a little bit of an edge on Mito, but where I'm looking at is I'm looking at Mito again. He's 5th in this field in bogey avoidance right now and 12th in the field in scrambling. So for me, he's grading out 16th in my model. And at $6,700, I'll be happy to take, a few shares on Mito if I have to go down here. And the other guy, there's 2 other guys. If I have to go down in the 6K range, the old man, I shouldn't say he's that old. He just looks older than what his age really is. Matt Kutcher, man. Matt Kutcher's grinding.
I really like him.
I knew he was going to have a good bounce back this year. He struggled last year, but I was on him to begin this season, and I'm still going to stay there again. Rate 4th in the field in bogey avoidance, 1st in scrambling, 8th in sand save percentage. He's one of those guys that, he can go low, but he's also a guy that shouldn't hurt you that often. He should be a guy that can just grind out pars, and that's going to be good enough this week, I think. So, at 6,800, you just make the cut, and he's a guy that can make the cut, but still have, top 20, chances for sure. maybe can come out with a top 10 if he's firing all cylinders this week.
He used to be notorious for that.
Exactly. And this guy cost me last week. I had way too many shares of him last week, and he burnt me by missing the cut. He was $8,000 last week, and he has dropped all the way down, I think, to 6,300 this week. And he's no, not even Lanto. It's Adam Hadwin.
Yes.
He's just way too cheap, man. He's way too cheap. I think that he does bounce back this week, from last week. I did have exposure to Lanto last week, but Lanto made the cut. Hadwin kind of burned me last week by missing the cut.
He did.
But he's a guy that, he's, except for last week, he's been having a great season. He's really good on approach this year, where he's normally struggled on approach in previous seasons. But again, he should be that guy. Really good with bogey avoidance, 14th in the field in bogey avoidance. Scrambling, he's 21st, which is still far above average. And then he's 6th in sand save percentage this week. So he's another guy good around the green at 6,300. If I have to go down low, I'm going to Hadwin, especially if I want to put together like a stars and scrubs build.
Most definitely. Yeah, I'm warming up to him as well. And we're going to go ahead and cut it off there. And I appreciate you joining me again, Dave. Always a wealth of knowledge coming from a veteran DFS guy like yourself. And I've got plenty of scrolls going across, giving you all the information you need on how to contact Dave and get in his DMs and get you that spreadsheet he's got on his stat model. So we're going to call it a day. Thanks for joining, Dave. And until next time, peace.